Have you ever wondered what it truly feels like to live in one of the most powerful cities on Earth? Not as a tourist snapping photos at Marina Bay Sands, but as a real person building a real life in Singapore. I spent months talking to 200 foreigners, people from India, the Philippines, the United States, Nigeria, Germany, China, and beyond. Some came for work, some came for love, some came chasing a dream. And what they shared with me completely shattered every assumption I had about this tiny, spotless, ultra-modern island. Singapore looks perfect on the outside. The streets are clean, the trains run on time, the economy is one of the strongest in the entire world. But behind that gleaming surface, there are stories of loneliness, culture shock, financial pressure, unexpected joy, and life-changing transformation. This is not a tourist video. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about Singapore, told through the voices of real people who actually lived it. So sit back, stay with me, because what you are about to hear will surprise you.
Point 1. The cost of living will shock you. The very first thing almost every foreigner mentioned was the cost of living, and not just a little expensive. We are talking about a level of expense that genuinely catches people off guard, even those who did their research before arriving. A simple one-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood can cost between 2,500 and 4,000 Singapore dollars every single month. That is not buying, that is just renting. A plate of chicken rice at a hawker center might cost only $3 to $4, but the moment you step into a Western restaurant or a mall food court, prices jump dramatically. Foreigners from Southeast Asia were often the most surprised. Many came expecting Singapore to feel similar to their home countries. Instead, they found a city that operates on an entirely different financial level. Even groceries, transport, and childcare add up faster than expected. Yet, here is the twist. Most of them stayed, because the salaries in Singapore, especially in tech, finance, and healthcare, are genuinely competitive. The trade-off is real. You spend more, but you also earn more. The key, as one French expat told me, is adjusting your mindset before you adjust your budget. Point 2. Singaporeans are not unfriendly. They are just busy. One of the biggest misconceptions foreigners arrive with is that Singaporeans are cold or unfriendly. Many people said they felt ignored or brushed off in their first few weeks. They smiled at neighbors who did not smile back. They tried to make small talk that went nowhere. They felt invisible. But here is what 200 foreigners eventually discovered. Singaporeans are not cold. They are simply operating on a very different social frequency. Singapore is a high-performance society. People wake up early, work long hours, commute on packed trains, and carry enormous pressure to succeed academically, professionally, and financially. Small talk is not a cultural default. Efficiency is. Once foreigners understood this, everything changed. They stopped interpreting silence as rejection and started seeing it as respect for personal space. They found genuine warmth the moment they showed consistency, whether at a regular coffee shop, in a sports club, or at a community event. Several foreigners, including a Nigerian engineer and a Brazilian teacher, told me that their Singaporean friendships became some of the deepest and most loyal they had ever experienced. It just took longer to build. Patience, they said, is everything.
Point 3. The education pressure is unlike anything in the world. Parents who moved to Singapore with children were almost universally stunned by the education system. From a distance, Singapore's education is celebrated globally. It tops international rankings. Students here consistently outperform peers from dozens of other countries in mathematics and science. But living inside that system is a completely different experience. Children as young as 6 begin preparing for examinations that will shape their academic path for years to come. Tuition centers are everywhere. It is not unusual for primary school children to attend school, then tuition, then come home at 8 or 9 in the evening. Weekends often include additional academic classes. Foreigners from Europe were particularly shocked. Many came from countries where childhood is deliberately protected from academic pressure until the teenage years. Watching their children absorb the same stress as local kids was difficult.
However, there is another side. Many foreign parents also admitted that the discipline, focus, and academic foundation their children gained in Singapore was extraordinary. Kids who struggled back home began to thrive. The system is intense, but for families who commit to it, the results are undeniable. Whether it is worth the pressure is a question every parent must answer for themselves.
Point 4. The food scene will ruin you for every other country. Every single foreigner, without one exception, talked about the food. Singapore's hawker culture is not just famous, it is life-changing. It rewires your relationship with food permanently. Imagine walking 5 minutes from your apartment at any time of the day and finding freshly cooked laksa, char kway teow, nasi lemak, roti prata, dim sum, and dozens of other dishes, all made by hawkers who have been perfecting their craft for 20, 30, sometimes 40 years. The prices are absurdly low by Singapore's otherwise expensive standards. A full, satisfying meal at a hawker center can cost as little as 3 to 5 Singapore dollars. The variety is staggering. Because Singapore is a melting pot of Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Western influences, the food scene reflects that beautiful complexity in every single bite. Foreigners from countries with strong food cultures, including Italy, Mexico, and Japan, all admitted something remarkable. They expected to miss home cooking terribly. Instead, they found themselves exploring flavors they had never encountered before. Many said that returning to their home countries after years in Singapore felt strange because nothing compared. Singapore's food does not just satisfy hunger, it creates a longing that never fully goes away.
Point 5. The safety is real, but it comes with rules. Singapore is consistently ranked as one of the safest cities in the entire world. Foreigners almost universally confirm this. Women said they felt comfortable walking alone at midnight. Families said they let their children travel on the MRT independently from a young age. People left laptops and wallets on tables at coffee shops without fear. This level of safety is genuinely rare and genuinely life-changing for people who came from cities where personal security was a constant concern. But the safety comes with a framework of rules that surprised many foreigners. Singapore is famous for its strict laws. Littering carries heavy fines. Chewing gum is restricted from being sold. Drug offenses carry some of the most severe penalties in the world. Public behavior is regulated in ways that feel unusual to people from more relaxed societies. A German expat described it perfectly. He said Singapore felt like living inside a very well-run company. Everything works, everything is clean, everyone follows the rules, and in return, you get an extraordinary quality of life. Most foreigners accepted this trade willingly. A few found it restrictive, but nearly all of them agreed that the safety Singapore offers is something they would never take for granted again.
Point 6. Loneliness is the secret struggle nobody talks about. Here's the truth that surprised me the most when I started these conversations. Beneath the success, the salaries, the clean streets, and the food paradise, loneliness is one of the most common hidden struggles that foreigners face in Singapore. Singapore is a transient city. People arrive, build temporary lives, then leave. Friendships form quickly, but often end just as fast when contracts expire or visa situations change. Expat communities can feel like revolving doors. You invest in a friendship, and 6 months later, your friend is relocating to Dubai or London. Foreigners without families in Singapore described a particular kind of aloneness that is hard to explain. They had everything materially: good jobs, safe neighborhoods, world-class infrastructure. But the deep, grounded sense of belonging that comes from a home community was missing. Several people dealt with this through online communities, religious groups, sports clubs, and volunteer organizations. Some found genuine belonging. Others admitted they spent years in Singapore feeling professionally fulfilled but emotionally hollow. This does not make Singapore a bad place. It makes it a place that demands intentional effort to build community. The city will not hand you a social life. You have to build it yourself, brick by brick, with real effort and real courage.
Point 7. The multicultural reality is both beautiful and complex.
Singapore's diversity is genuine and remarkable. Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Eurasian communities have lived side by side for generations. The government actively works to preserve this racial and religious harmony through policies, public housing integration, and cultural celebrations that the entire nation participates in. For foreigners, this multicultural environment felt like a gift. They were exposed to Deepavali, Hari Raya, Chinese New Year, and Christmas all within a single calendar year. They ate foods from a dozen traditions. They worked alongside colleagues from vastly different backgrounds. Many said it made them more empathetic, more curious, and more open as human beings. But foreigners also noticed the complexity beneath the harmony. Race and identity are not topics Singaporeans take lightly. There are unspoken social codes, historical tensions, and deeply held community loyalties that outsiders can misread if they are not careful. A British expat told me she spent her first year assuming harmony meant sameness. It took time to understand that Singapore's multicultural success is built on mutual respect for difference, not erasure of it. Once she grasped that distinction, she said, Singapore became infinitely richer, more layered, and more beautiful than she had ever imagined possible.
Point 8. The career opportunities are genuinely world-class. Singapore punches far above its weight as a global business hub. For a country with a land area smaller than many cities, its economic influence is extraordinary. It serves as the regional headquarters for hundreds of multinational corporations. Finance, technology, logistics, biomedical sciences, and legal services all operate at the highest international levels here. Foreigners who came for career growth almost universally confirmed that Singapore delivered. Promotions came faster. Exposure to high-level work was greater. Networks built in Singapore opened doors across the entire Asia-Pacific region and beyond. Several people told me that 1 or 2 years in Singapore did more for their careers than 5 years back home. The concentration of ambitious, talented, globally minded professionals creates an environment of constant learning and elevation. However, foreigners also noted that the job market is competitive and that the government actively prioritizes local hiring through policies designed to protect Singaporean citizens. Getting your foot in the door as a foreigner requires a genuine competitive edge. For those who arrive with strong skills and the right mindset, Singapore can transform a career entirely. Many people came for 2 years and ended up building entire decades of their professional lives here, simply because the opportunities kept growing.
Point 9. The weather will test your mental strength. Nobody warned them about the weather. This came up again and again in my conversations, and it always got a laugh, but beneath the laughter was genuine sincerity. Singapore sits just 1 degree north of the equator. That means it is hot, humid, and intense every single day of the year. There are no seasons in the traditional sense. There is hot, and there is slightly hotter. Humidity regularly sits at 80 to 90%. The sun is powerful. Rain arrives suddenly and with enormous force, then disappears just as fast. For foreigners from temperate climates, especially those from Northern Europe, Canada, and parts of the United States, this was a genuine physical and psychological adjustment. Sweating through clothes before 9 in the morning, feeling drained by midday, missing the crispness of autumn or the quiet beauty of snow. Many said it took a full year before their bodies adjusted. Some never fully adjusted. Air conditioning became not a luxury, but a survival tool. The joke among long-term expats is that Singapore has 2 temperatures, outdoor sauna and indoor freezer. But others came to genuinely love the heat. They loved the energy it created, the lushness of the tropical greenery, and the fact that outdoor life was possible every single day of the year. Weather, it turns out, is deeply personal.
Point 10. Singapore will change you whether you are ready or not. The final and most powerful point that came out of 200 conversations was this: Singapore changes people. Deeply, permanently, and in ways they never anticipated when they first landed. Some changes are practical.
People become more efficient, more organized, and more demanding of quality. They stop tolerating systems that do not work, because Singapore has shown them that systems can, in fact, work perfectly. Some changes are personal. They become more culturally aware, more open to difference, and more capable of navigating complexity. Living among so many nationalities and traditions quietly expands a person's sense of what is possible and what is normal. And some changes are harder to name, a kind of resilience that comes from building a life far from everything familiar, a quiet confidence that comes from proving to yourself that you can not only survive, but thrive in one of the world's most demanding cities. People who left Singapore after years abroad often described a bittersweet feeling. They missed it in ways they had not expected, not just the food or the safety or the efficiency, but the version of themselves they had become while living there. Singapore does not just give you opportunities, it gives you a mirror. And what you see in that mirror, if you stay long enough, might just be the best version of yourself.
So there you have it, 10 shocking truths about Singapore, shared through the real voices of 200 foreigners who actually lived them. Singapore is not a perfect city. No city is. It is expensive, demanding, transient, and relentlessly high pressure. The weather will exhaust you. The loneliness might catch you off guard. The rules will make you pause. But Singapore is also safe, extraordinary, diverse, delicious, and full of career-defining opportunities. It is a city that rewards effort, respects ambition, and quietly transforms everyone who commits to truly experiencing it. Whether you are thinking about moving to Singapore, already living there, or simply curious about what life looks like in one of the world's most fascinating cities, I hope these stories gave you something real to hold on to. If this video resonated with you, please share it with someone who is considering a move to Singapore. Leave a comment below telling me which of these 10 points surprised you the most. And if you want more stories from real people living extraordinary lives around the world, make sure you subscribe because we have so much more to share. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop being curious about this remarkable world we all share.